guys, we're going to walk you through the process of creating wrapped bouquets today. There's actually two main methods that we use using different material. So I've given you the option this week to use either cellophane and tissue paper or the more modern Kraft brown butcher paper. So the arrangement, how we organize our flowers, is going to be the exact same no matter which method of wrapping you're doing. But our third focus skill is about the wrap and the folding, the presentation, and that will be the different factor. So all of our setup today is going to be the same, and then when we split off, just make sure you fast forward to your portion for your arrangement style. Today for our flowers, we're going to be using 3 roses and 3 carnations. Those are our mains today. You're probably going to get a mixture of bright cherry spring colors. Then for our filler flowers today, we have 2 hypericum and 2 wax flower. And then our greenery today is leather fern. I've given you more than enough to do your arrangement. Besides our wrap today, no matter which style you're doing, the focus of the flowers, we're trying to really still continue our work on balance. How we lay this out needs to be balanced, plus if we're holding it as wrap bouquet needs to feel balanced and not top heavy or low heavy. We're also then working on proportion, making sure we're laying stuff out and cutting things to size so that they look good together as a whole, not just worrying about one rose, but worrying about the entire arrangement. Then we're gonna get to the wrap and folding in just a little bit. So for right now, I'm not even gonna draw your wrap material, I'm just going to draw the arrangement. What I want you to think back to is our first arrangement, the bud vase. We're gonna kind of play off of that and just make it larger. So this is a one-sided because we're gonna put it against wrap. So one-sided arrangement, just like the bud vase. And we're gonna start with that greenery to lay our wall out, just like we did with the bud. So you're gonna use your greenery to create your background. It's just gonna be wider this time. So I would start with at least 3 to 4 pieces more if you have them. You can always take them out from the back and not disturb your arrangement in the end. Then we've got 3 roses and 3 carnations, and I want you to use them in alternating spaces. So what you'll do is you'll start with one type. We want it below the leather fern, that's your tallest point, but we still want these guys to show up, so we do want them pretty high up. And then a carnation. All right, a rose, a carnation, a rose, and then maybe a carnation. Just space them out so they fill up the majority of the arrangement. Then your filler flowers today are a little bit different. Wax flower looks a lot like baby's breath. It's very full, goes a lot of places. Hypericum though is more of a punch. It's more together. Those berries actually act as a flower. So I want to use those first and then as kind of just part of the arrangement. And then my wax flower I'm going to use to fill in empty spaces. So I would encourage you to put the hypericum up with your main flowers. And then your wax flower can kind of go all throughout to fill in the empty spaces. So that's in general what ours should look like. It should be fanning out, but it'd be one-sided. Most of our main flowers together up towards the top. We're not gonna have a lot of space when you cover it up with wrapping. So about 3 inches or so is really what we're playing with. That is balanced, it's proportionate, and now we're gonna take a look at the wrap and the fold. Okay. Today we're gonna start with the very first original, main, popular style in wrapped bouquets, which is cellophane. The other style we'll do in just a second, that really hasn't been trendy until about 2 or 3 years ago. So cellophane wrap is pretty popular. You'll see it at any floral shop. If you end up working in the industry, it's something you need to know. So we're gonna start with the actual piece of cellophane. So what I did was I cut cellophane, that's the plasticky piece, into a rectangular shape. I did not measure it, and I did not cut, super fancy. So try to straighten out my edges if you got a wonky piece. But we're gonna lay that down on the table first. Then within the borders of the cellophane, so we don't wanna go over it, we're gonna lay our tissue paper. We don't want it too far in the edges. We just don't want it to be further back. So up to you how you do it. Some of you I gave 2 or 3 pieces to because they're just cut a little bit funkier. So you might have to creatively lay them on top of here and overlap the tissue paper. But as long as they're not going above the edges of the cellophane, you'll be fine. All right. Next, we're gonna take our arrangement and lay it into one of the upper corners. Depending on what like dominant hand you have, I always lay it in the upper left because I'm a right-handed person and I'm gonna grab this corner first. I think oppositely, if you were left-handed dominant, you would do it like that. So basically, I'm gonna lay my arrangement so that it slightly overlaps. So I'm thinking my greenery, probably like that. My roses are kind of in here. That's the shape of my arrangement. Our first step is if our stems are out the border of the cellophane and tissue paper, we wanna cut them. And we kind of prefer them to be slightly, if I were to cut this, you know, in half diagonally, I don't want it to be this short, but I kind of want it to be somewhere right in there. I don't want to be too close to the edge, but I want to be past the midpoint. So cut all your stems so that they match. If there's something that is shorter than the halfway mark, it's just harder to make sure that it stays in the wrap. The halfway mark is really where your ribbon's gonna end up, which is what's holding it in the wrap. So if you have a super short piece like way up here, I really discourage using it. Try to get it within the halfway mark. Next comes folding. With the tissue paper and the cellophane, we have 3 folds. 2 from the side, 1 from the bottom. Before we get to folding, it's gonna be important because you need your hands. You need a piece of Scotch tape about that big. That's what you're gonna use to secure it once you do have the folds. And then after that, you'll need your pieces of curling ribbon. So what I like to do is I take the far corner and I take it all the way up and over the flowers to this other side. Keeping in mind that I want my arrangements to still have this fanned out look. So when I do this, I wanna hold pressure so that it does end up on the edge of this, but I don't wanna have too much pressure that as I'm pulling it, I'm creasing this and making it more of a straight line. So you kind of have to be gentle with it. You might do that and then kind of tug back a little bit, but we want to still have kind of a cone shape in the end. All right, so I've done my first one up over to the other side. The next fold is actually going to be the bottom. I'm going to take this guy straight up until it hits my edge of my stems so that it creates a flat bottom. So I have a flat bottom and a fanned out cone top. I don't want a pointy bottom. All right, so this was 1, this is 2. The third is the final fold, and this is the part that everybody's going to see. So it's super important that you do it well and take your time to fix it if you're not. You're gonna take your last corner and go up and over the opposite way around to the back of the arrangement so that it is hidden, and that's where you will tape it. And when you tape it, you're gonna wanna tape vertically so that it's hidden, not horizontally where it could wrap around to the edges and show. That one, this material is what's gonna be on the top of our arrangement, so it needs to be smooth. So as you're doing these folds, if your tissue paper is bunching, if the cellophane is bunching, take the time to smooth it out because the customer is gonna see that. It's gonna be solid tissue paper cellophane, and then at the opening, the flowers. Once you've taped it, what it should end up looking like is something like that. And then you have your flowers hanging at the top. They kind of show right to about there-ish. Our last part is to add our curling ribbon, which we're gonna add to the middle point. You're gonna lay it on the bottom. You're gonna tie it in a knot and cinch it so that this becomes tight. And then you're gonna curl that ribbon so they hang down kind of like a floral bow. Let's demo it for you. be wrapping your flowers is with Kraft paper, and yes, that's spelled correctly. This is a more modern take, the brown kind of farmer's market butcher paper style look. So what I've given you in your kits are 2 square pieces of Kraft paper. Again, I was mass cutting them, so take a moment to kind of trim up the edges, if you will. We want, I think they were 16 or 18 inches squares. 2 of them. The first thing you're gonna do once you've trimmed them up to your liking is you're actually going to fold them in half this way so that we then have 2 triangles. We want 2 pieces that look like that. What we're gonna do is we're gonna lay our first triangle down so that it kind of looks like a pyramid, and we're gonna place our floral arrangement. The stems are gonna hang down low, but we want the tip of the brown paper to still be the tallest point. So our ferns, our roses, all the good stuff is right here. But that tip is still slightly higher. We wanna have our second triangle of wrap ready to go, as well as a piece of tape, because once we start folding this, we're gonna run out of hands. We need to be able to grab that really quickly. So have a piece of Scotch tape about that big ready to go on your side. So we've centered them, we like the layout, we've adjusted them however we see fit. We're gonna take this corner and we're gonna roll over to the other side. We're then gonna take this whole thing as it is, which is hard to draw, but I'll show it to you guys in just a second. Editing Mo here. I diagrammed incorrectly before I realized it, so I apologize. Instead of folding directly over from side to side, you're actually going to fold one of the corners up towards the center and over to the center, and then you'll repeat it. Kind of like if you were to fold both those up at the same time, they would kind of touch tips at that top part, and you will add tape there. You'll then put it on the second triangle, again, fold up, and tape. When you watch the actual demo video, that is the way I want you to do it.